welcome to another deep dive with us. We're going to be taking a look at the financial side of privileged access management. Payment systems can be a strategic move, for your bottom line, not just all the tech stuff. And you've sent over some really good research. I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. A PAM system can actually make you money when you think about all the risks that it helps you avoid.
So let's just jump right in. Those data breach headlines, right? They're always scary. One of the sources we have actually walks us through a simulation of a data breach, and oh man, it is really eye-opening.
Okay, so imagine, right, an employee accidentally sends a file. It's got sensitive customer data. They send it to the wrong person.
Oh no.
Simple mistake. But the consequences, those aren't simple at all.
Yeah, that sounds like, honestly, a nightmare.
It happens more often than you think.
Mm-hmm.
The costs, they go so fast. First, you got to do a forensic investigation. You got to figure out what data was, what was compromised. That can be thousands of dollars right there. Then you're looking at potential legal fees. Then you have regulatory fines, especially if you're dealing with data that's protected by things like IPA or GDPR.
And the reputational damage, that's probably a whole other thing to deal with too.
Oh, for sure. So in the simulation, they estimate the total cost at, get this, $2.2 million. It really shows you what's at stake here. One of the sources even mentioned is a data breach cost calculator tool. It's from a company called @Bay. You can go check it out yourself if you want. We included the link in your materials.
Whoa, okay. $2 million in losses. Now I'm starting to understand why everybody keeps talking about PAM. It sounds like a good insurance policy, but how does it actually stop those financial disasters?
Well, one of the stats we saw is that companies that have PAM systems, they're 50% less likely to get hit with a cyber attack.
Wow. 50%.
Yeah, that's cutting your risk in half.
That's huge. But I'm guessing that the benefits go beyond just those big breaches. What about the small things, the things that could be costing money that maybe people aren't thinking about?
You're right. Those little things, they add up over time. So think about managing accounts, resetting passwords, generating reports, all manually.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of time. And humans, we make mistakes.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Exactly. PM, that automates all that. Imagine your IT team. They suddenly have more time to work on big projects instead of doing the same tasks over and over.
Yeah. So it's like you're giving your IT team a superpower. Working smarter, not harder. Let's talk about some of those costs that are hard to put a dollar amount on. I know our sources mentioned reputational damage. What else is there?
Well, think about operational downtime. If someone gets into your systems, how much money are you losing every hour that you can't operate? For some businesses, it could destroy them. And then there's the risk of, someone within the company who has too much access. Our sources talk a lot about that. That's a big concern.
Yeah, those insider threats. Scary stuff. Whether they mean to do it or not, it makes sense to have systems in place to stop that.
Absolutely. And that is where PAM is really helpful. They have this feature called segregation of duties. It's like having checks and balances for your systems. No single person has too much power, stops mistakes from happening or, any bad stuff. Let me put it this way. Imagine a bank teller, right? And they can approve loans and withdraw money at the same time. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Segregation of duties makes sure that doesn't happen.
So PAM isn't just about security. It's about making sure things run smoothly and protecting the company's finances. Makes a lot of sense. Can you give a specific example of how the features in PAM actually save money?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about automated password management. Think about all the time wasted, all the money spent on resetting passwords by hand, especially in big companies. PAM, it does that automatically.
Yeah, that's a lot of time saved for IT.
Right. And saving time, that saves money. Plus, it means fewer mistakes. And then there's something called approval workflows. Those are really important for anything that's sensitive.
So it's like if someone wants to access, say, important financial data, PAM can make sure that request is approved by the right people.
Exactly. Checks and balances, right. That level of control, it stops mistakes, it makes sure everything's documented, and that's important for audits and staying compliant.
Makes sense. We've covered a lot. We talked about data breaches, hidden costs, and how PAM can really help businesses. I feel like I'm learning a lot. What would you say is the main takeaway for our listener?
I would say PAM is not just about security. It's a smart investment. By making breaches less likely, making processes run smoother and making sure you're following the rules, PAM can give you a big return on your investment. It's about protecting your business financially for the long term.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. One of the sources you sent, it talks about regulations and how PAM helps companies stay on the right side of the law. Let's get into that. So before we were talking about how PAM helps organizations stay compliant, right, with
Mhm.
all those regulations. And I know you want to understand the financial side of all this, and this is a big part of it.
For sure. If you don't follow the rules, the fines can be huge. Legal battles, they can even shut down your operations. It's a risk that you, especially you, can't really afford to take.
So it's not just data breaches, it's like this whole other world of rules you got to follow. What are some of the big ones?
Well, we talked about IPay, GDPR, but there are a lot of them, depending on your business and where you are. SOX, that's for financial stuff. PCI DSS, that's for payment cards. ISO 27001, that's for managing information security. And those are just a few.
Sounds like a lot, but our sources, they say that PAM can actually help with all this compliance stuff.
Yeah.
How?
Well, a lot of these regulations, they have the same requirements. They say you got to have strong access controls, keep good records, and that segregation of duties we talked about.
And those are all part of PAM, right?
Oh, exactly. So PAM, it's not just security. You're also building a system that helps you follow the rules, saves you headaches and money down the road.
PAM is like a multi-tool then. Stops breaches, streamlines things, keeps you on the right side of the law. Sounds like a good reason to invest in it.
Absolutely. When you think about all the money you can save, it's clear that PAM pays for itself. Like they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Okay, I'm convinced. PAM sounds like a no-brainer. But being realistic, adding a new system, that's a big deal. PAM probably isn't any different. How do you suggest our listener, how do they convince the people in charge, the ones with the money, that PAM is worth it?
That's a good question. You got to change how they think about PAM. It's not an expense. It's an insurance policy. For your most important stuff, those privileged accounts.
Like you wouldn't run a business without insurance, right? You got to protect yourself just in case.
Exactly. PAM, it's about making sure that a breach or a compliance issue doesn't destroy you financially. And don't forget those other benefits. Peace of mind, knowing your data is safe, things running smoothly, customers trusting you more because you take security seriously.
It's about the long game, looking at the big picture. You're not buying software, you're investing in the future.
Exactly. And when you look at it that way, the return on investment for PAM, it's obvious.
Okay, let's say they get the okay to look into PAM. Where do they even start? This seems like a really big project. What do you suggest?
First, figure out what you're trying to protect. Take a look at your security, where you are now. Figure out your important stuff, those privileged accounts. What are the risks? That'll help you decide how big your PAM system needs to be.
So know what you need and find a solution that fits. No one size fits all, right?
For sure. You got to choose a PAM solution that works for your company, how big it is, how complex it is, and what your industry needs. There's a lot of help out there. Consultants, vendors, even online groups where you can talk to other security people and learn from them.
So you don't have to do it all alone. There are people to help. Anything else for someone just starting with PAM?
Don't try to do everything at once. Start small, focus on the biggest risks, then build from there. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Show that it's working, and that'll help you get more people on board with PAM.
That's good advice. It's easy to get overwhelmed. Starting small, building up, makes sense.
And remember, PAM isn't just about technology. It's about getting everyone involved, from IT to the top bosses. Explain the benefits, make sure everyone understands why it's important, and build a culture of security in your company.
This has been really helpful. We've gone from data breaches to compliance, everything. I feel like I've learned so much about PAM.
I agree. Hopefully our listener feels like they can start talking about this at their company and see how PAM can really make a difference for their security and their bottom line.
But before we finish up, I want to shift gears a bit. We've talked about the money, the rules, efficiency, but what about the people? How does PAM affect the people who use it every day? Does it make their jobs harder or easier? We were talking about PAM and how it affects the people who actually use it every day. Does it make their jobs easier or harder?
That's a great question. A lot of people don't even think about that. You might think, oh, more security, that's got it more complicated, right? But with PAM, it can actually be the opposite.
Really? How so?
Think about passwords. Trying to remember a million different passwords, it's a pain. But with a good PAM system, users, they don't have to worry about all those passwords anymore. They can just use one secure portal to access everything they need. Some even have that single sign-on feature.
Oh yeah, password fatigue is real.
Right. And it's not just passwords. PAM, it streamlines everything. It automates a lot of those security tasks that used to be manual. That means employees have more time to actually do their work.
So PAM isn't about making things harder for employees. It's about giving them the tools they need to do their jobs better.
Exactly. And when employees feel like they have the right tools, they're more productive and happier.
This is making me think about PAM in a whole new way. It's not just about security or rules, it's about making things better for the people who use it.
Yeah, that's a really important point to make when you're trying to get people on board with PAM. It's about protecting the company, the data, but it's also about making sure employees can do their best work in a safe and easy way.
So we've come full circle. We started talking about the financial reasons for PAM, all the numbers and stuff. But in the end, it's about people. It's about protecting your company, your data, and your employees, and making sure they can thrive in this crazy digital world we live in.
Well said. When you invest in PAM, you're investing in the future of your organization, and that means investing in the people who make it all happen.
That's a really great point to end on. We've given you a lot to think about today. So if PAM can save your organization millions, make things run smoother, keep you compliant, and make your employees' lives easier, what's stopping you from taking a closer look?
This deep dive, it's just the beginning. I encourage you to do your own research, talk to people in your company, and see how PAM can change things for the better.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back again soon to explore more exciting stuff happening in the world of technology.